Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Riverdale as well as the latest episode of Deadly Class. Like always, I'm talking about something that you want to listen to. You can always look in the description down below. I include the time I'm going to start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of Riverdale, you can skip to what I say about this week's episode of Deadly Class. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Riverdale. A lot of interesting things that went down in this episode. First and foremost, we have Archie bonding with this boy named Ricky. Ricky escaped from this home and everything. It's this shelter he was at, and it seems like he's got the same mark on him that Archie did, this mark of sacrifice. And it's so interesting because, like, obviously Archie's looking after this kid and everything, and it's like, because, you know, Archie knows, like, oh, I'm in your same boat, so he's training the kid up, because he's like, hey, you can't run from this, you know, fighting, you know, in juvie was what kind of kept him safe after he was marked and everything, and so he wants to kind of do the same thing for Ricky, and it's like, hey, don't worry, no matter what ends up happening, I'm gonna be by your side, even when Ricky ended up getting missing, because, you know, Archie started, like, being worried, because it's like, oh, man, the gargoyles are after him and everything. But then we find out some very interesting information. For one, turns out Ricky is Joaquin's brother. It's like interesting because that never came up and stuff like that. Maybe it did. I don't know. I'm trying to remember, did Joaquin ever really talk about his family much? I don't think he really did, but it might have come up and I just don't remember. That's typically how these things end up going. But it's like, yeah, Ricky, for one, it's like, oh no, I'm not, you know, because he even went as far as writing his name on the list. It's like the names of all these people that are being sacrificed for the game. He put his names under Archie's just to kind of throw Archie off his trail and stuff like that. That's what this is all about. Because I was like, okay, so like for him, it's like apparently he's doing it so that the gargoyles will protect him. We never actually got the answer to that, but protect him from what? When he was talking about the shelter and stuff like that, it might not have been BS. It might be the fact is that the shelter was some bad place, and because he wants to feel strong and protected, that's why he's getting mixed up in this game, because that's what happens with this game. It kind of comes after those who are vulnerable, and he's probably in a situation where he feels weak and vulnerable and he wants to feel strong, hence the whole trying to join with the gargoyles. But the fact of the matter is, even going as far as trying to slice Archie up, it's so sad, because like I said, you could tell Archie was kind of developing, like his probably, it was almost like Ricky was kind of becoming like a little brother to him in a certain regard, and it's like, jeez, man, that's sad, you know. And he even talks to his dad about it, but his dad's like, you're not a fool, you just have a big heart. Because the fact is, you know, he was even being like, oh, we're going to find you a good family, and I'm gonna check in on you all the time, but we're not gonna let you go with any family until me and my dad go with you to make sure everything's okay, that the family's good, and then we'll meet up, we'll hang out, and we'll train all the time. You know, basically I'm gonna stay in your life. And it's just after all that, and it's like, oh yeah, he's only spent all this time around you because he was trying to, you know, be a part of the game. So it begs the question, the people that were after him earlier, was that all part of like, oh, to get, you know, so eventually Archie would be so concerned that he'd come after him so he'd see the name? Like, you know, it was a long game that he was playing, so it's like, for what purpose? I mean, it's so messed up too, because it's like, the fact of the matter is, these are the same people that killed your own brother, but I guess for him it's like, you know, my brother ascended, and so, you know, now, you know, I'll, you know, potentially do the same. Or maybe it's because of the loss of Joaquin that he ended up kind of becoming like this. I don't know. It's just kind of sad to see things and see people get so twisted up because of this game. Even the fact is that Archie is literally still a prize of like, oh, because he's still the sacrifice that got away. So it's probably not just going to be, because the card was given to him to be like, oh, his mission in G&G is to kill Archie, kill the Red Paladin. But I'm sure he's not going to be the only one with that mission. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be after Archie. It's like, man, Archie can't catch a break. Is it simply because Archie's the one that got away, or is there some other more malicious reason why Archie is? I think it's also because when you actually think about it, like in the grand schemes of Riverdale, I guess you can make the argument Archie is kind of like the hero, and so in this game it's like, oh, he's kind of like the hero that has to die or something like that. Like, it's because obviously, like, you know, the game of G&G reflects Riverdale and stuff like that. So it's like, in, you know, the story of Riverdale in itself, I would assume, you know, Archie is kind of like the hero, the protagonist. So I guess that's part of this demented game of getting rid of the hero for whatever reason, you know? Because it was a warden, you know, he had his, you know, own reasons and stuff like that. But I guess, I don't know, like I said, I feel like there has to be a specific reason they chose Archie amongst anyone else. So there's that side of things, you know, because even, you know, Jughead is like, me and him and Betty have Archie's back, but it's like he's gonna have to basically play out this game, like, because if he does it, like, if things don't end, like, this is just gonna keep going on forever and ever. So there's that. Then there's the other side of things with Betty, which takes some very interesting turns, to the point like Kevin isn't talking to her. He's getting more and more included in the farm. Evelyn's got them, a whole bunch of him and other kids putting their hands over burners just to basically, I guess it's to test them later on when they basically have to walk on fiery coal, because interestingly enough, this episode is titled Fire Walk With Me, I think, which, of course, because, the Twin Peaks references don't stop. I mean, like I said, it's just the vibe of the show naturally always felt like Twin Peaks, but I guess the people who, are creators behind the show or whatever have to be like huge Twin Peaks fans just to kind of go that far to literally name one of your episodes Fire Walk With Me, So, but it's like some really demented looking stuff, because you even see Evelyn kind of looking at them doing all this and it's smiling, but I guess for her it's like, oh, they're transcending pain and stuff like that, they're entering the next chapter and stuff like that. It's just weird and crazy to look at. And to the point, Betty's trying to write about it, but Evelyn threatens like, oh yeah, we know all about that stuff that your mom did. Oh, the person she killed, the body that got disposed. The fact is that FP and Jughead helped with that, disposing of the car. And the messed up thing is, it wasn't just her saying it. Literally, these words were coming out of Kevin's mouth threatening her. And it's like, that's one of your best friends you're talking about there, but for him, he's just so caught up in this. Like I said, they're coming after people so vulnerable. It's so interesting because Betty went to Josie about, and it's like, oh yeah, Kevin's sneaking out, and I was like, oh right, I forgot, because I was like, oh yeah, because Kevin, because she didn't tell her mom or Kevin's dad, and I'm like, right, you two are siblings now. I kind of didn't even think about that before. It's like, right, your parents got married, so it's like, yeah, you're siblings now. That's pretty dope. I didn't even really think about that, But, yeah, that's got to be pretty harsh because, for Betty, she just feels powerless because it's just kind of like, because, like, even if she went to warn her mom about that, her mom wouldn't. It's like, oh, Betty, you're just overreacting, blah, 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 blah. It's just, or she makes some excuse like, oh, they're just doing that and they're not really going to do it. Like, she's so brainwashed to the point Betty was probably like, I'm not even going to bother trying because there's no point, And so it's like, I love that too, because it's almost like, oh, you're trying to make it seem like you're all okay, you're helping people. It's like, that's some like super diabolical shit to say and threaten someone with, of like, oh, we know your dirty secrets, we'll use them against you if you try to leak any information about it. So it's like, dude, come on, So I guess like, they hide behind like their pleasantries, but it's almost kind of like, oh, I guess we don't need to hide who we really are around you, since apparently you're the only one who can see us for who and what we really are. So that's sad. What was really interesting is we had that moment where Betty kind of was about to swipe her hand against the candle to test out with the flame. Because let's not forget, Betty has her dark side too, which we haven't really seen pop up this season, interesting enough. Well, to be fair, I guess we can make the argument anytime she was talking to her dad, and you can make that as kind of the argument of like, oh yeah, that's her tiptoeing towards her dark side and everything. But what was really interesting is she didn't bother with that. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is instead I'm going to set the house on fire because, it's kind of like a middle finger, I guess, to her mom. I doubt she's moving to the farm. She's probably going to be like, oh, because Betty tried to like sabotage over and over again of like, oh yeah, like I'm going to try, Alice is trying to, sell the house. And it's like, because I noticed that too, where she's like, oh, I'm Alice Smith. I'm like, oh. I was like, all right, yeah, you probably do want to change your last name when you're selling the house. Because even Betty goes like, oh yeah, you look up Alice Cooper, not Smith. It's like, oh yeah, this is a house where my dad lived. Oh, the Black Hood, the serial killers. And it's like, oh man, so because Betty doesn't want to leave because that's her home, and it's just, especially because she knows the reason why Alice is selling it and stuff like that. So, and the crazy thing is, like, Betty walked away from, obviously she didn't say anything to Jughead, but she was like, I actually feel better. And it's like, once again, I think we are seeing, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this happens. I think this whole farm situation is going to bring out Betty's darker side, the darker side of her that kind of represents her dad. I think we're going to see that etch out more and more as the season progresses, just in contrast to like her mom thinking she's getting a fresh start and stuff. Like, I'm curious to see what ends up going down, because I do believe that this is also going to push Betty closer and closer to her dad. I'm also curious to see what is Polly going to think, especially after last episode. It's like, oh, our mom almost died, but Polly looked like she was almost freaking out almost a little bit, but she, when she looked at Evelyn and everything, so I don't know. It's hard to say whether maybe her faith has been shaken or whether she's still full invested in this. It'd be interesting if we found out that she wasn't as invested, where it's kind of like, oh, actually, the thing with mom kind of freaked me out. We'll have to wait and see, though. I'm sure Alice got to the fire in time. It was only on one side of the house where the curtains were and everything. Like, luckily she got back in time before everything got burned down, but still. Because I guess for, Betty, it's like the farm's taking her sister, it's taking her mom. It's basically kind of taking her sanity. So it's like, you want my house? Well, I'm going to burn it. Because even Alice doesn't know who bought the house. Like, the fact is, they kind of just let that slide, but it's like, yeah, that's probably something important that we're just going to have to wait till later to kind of see how that develops. But that was interesting. The moment she came out with the candle, I was like, is she really going to burn the entire house? I thought she was going to literally burn the house down. To be fair, I almost forgot. Let's not forget, Cheryl literally did that. I almost let that slip my mind. It's like, yeah, Cheryl 100% did that last season. I almost let that slip my mind. Which is interesting because obviously the Blossoms and the Coopers and everything like that. So it's just kind of funny how that just kind of, it runs in that family in some shape or form, at least on her dad's side of things. So I just think it's funny. Well, in a twisted way funny, And another angle to this episode is the whole Veronica situation. Now, that was really interesting. Veronica is kind of getting screwed over because, like, Gladys is there and Hiram, and she owes both of them money, so they're kind of running the place however they want to, because Veronica can't really say too much because it's like, yeah, because Gladys knows secrets and she owes her money, plus, complications with her dad, and it's just kind of, she tries to open the place up like a casino, which she does a very good job of kind of hiding stuff away when the time comes, so I thought that was pretty dope. What I also really liked was Gladys getting on stage doing her thing and the dude's talking mad shit and Gladys pulling out a knife, like, basically like, I will cut you, dude. And it's like he ended up getting kicked out and everything, and Hiram's like, I hope you get cost millions. It's like, because even you had to admit, because even you were sitting there because you were trying to bite your tongue because you're trying to make money, even you had to admit the dude was a D-bag, so don't act like that was just on Veronica. But to be fair, it's kind of like, because he even walked in at one point being like, oh yeah, look at this place, all these decorational choices, oh, like, that was kind of me. You have Gladys behind the bar, kind of fix her own drinks. So Veronica decides she's going to get some muscle, that being the pretty poisons. And I love that moment of being like, oh, don't you want to talk to Cheryl about this? Nah, because the pretty poisons are supposed to be Tony's. Because that comes up earlier because, like, Cheryl got into a fight with, like, the former ghoulies turned serpents. Former ghoulies turned gargoyles turned serpents. There was a whole fight over that one particular room. Cheryl, very kind of easy to kind of spark some stuff up. And then Tony was like, hey, the fact of the matter is, I just, it's like the last thing I want is for you, I had to kick out my own girlfriend. And even Cheryl kind of being like, yeah, because that would be awkward, considering the fact that the pretty poisons meet here. Not unless you have some other, like, headquarters that they can meet at, somewhere with a pool. Because the girls can't wait for summer. The way she said it, too, was almost kind of like, wait, what you trying to get at? Like, almost kind of like a situation of, like, yeah, like, because it's so interesting, because I almost feel like it created that paradigm that I was bringing up before, the whole aspect of, like, Cheryl kind of being the rich person and stuff like that, Tony kind of coming from the background, and she, not so rich background and stuff like that. So it almost seemed like she was flaunting that in her face of, like, the fact of the matter is, well, for one, because I'm sure in Cheryl's mind is like, I'm the one who put the pretty poisons together, because at, like, the end of the episode, Tony's like, yeah, I'm about to go do, our first day of work with Veronica. She's like, nah, I'm not feeling well. Well, by the time you come home, I'm probably going to be asleep. It was like, ooh, definitely problems in paradise, because that's the usual, like, relationship issue thing of, like, oh yeah, don't worry, don't wait, don't worry, because I'll probably be asleep by the time you get home, so obviously she's super pissed. But it's so interesting because it's like, you told Tony that this was supposed to be her thing, but for Cheryl, I think it's because she enjoys the power. Like, she was in a position amongst the serpents and stuff like that, but now it's into something she put together. She kind of feels like a queen of her own, and I think Cheryl, in general, doesn't like sharing power. That's just her thing. And it's like, even if it's Tony, it's like them being on the same level, sure, but she feels like now Tony's kind of got the upper hand in the power level, and I don't think she likes that. It's either I'm in complete control or we're on the same level. And I think even when they're on the same level, I think Cheryl still kind of treats herself as having a little bit of an upper edge. So even if it's like, she wants it probably like either 100% or 55-50. I mean, 55-45. I think that's the way Cheryl kind of works. That's how I'm looking at it. But I'm interested. It's because as time is going on, I'm like, with a lot of stuff that's going on between Cheryl and Tony, I'm like, yeah, that's going to turn complicated. Like, everything seems like, oh, they're kind of been in a honeymoon phase, but then now other things are kind of starting to get in the way and stuff like that. So, also seems like Tony might not be going after Jughead like I thought she would. I mean, I guess after the whole thing with Cheryl last episode, like, she's decided not to. It's kind of like, you made your actions, I'm not going to go against Jughead. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, she did warn Jughead about, like, oh, what they were about to do to Fang. I mean, because she hasn't completely abandoned the serpents, because, like, they were her family at one point in time, and it's like, yeah, she might have a problem with the serpents, but she ain't about to want to watch Fang get killed with Jesus. They were, like, hanging him over the edge like that, and it's like, if Sweet Pea and Jughead had not gotten to him in time, that would have been bad. Which that kind of ties into the other aspect of this episode. It's kind of like, you know, Kurtz and the former, you know, ghoulies turned gargoyles are a problem. They don't want to listen to Jughead because they're like, dude, like, you know, either you offer us something of equal value or we'll take the serpents for ourselves because you need us more than we need you. And it's like, jeez. And plus they try to kill Fang for being a spy and everything. They're talking about, oh, he'll ascend and everything. It's like, jeez, this group, ugh. It sucks because Jughead's in this position because of his mom, but his mom's not the one there trying to fix this problem. It's up to Jughead to fix it. It's kind of interesting because FP was kind of like, yeah, the serpents have kind of been lost for a while, and just so are these, you know, ghoulies slash gargoyles slash serpents. Because they don't have a purpose. It's up to you to give them a purpose. And I love what Jughead ultimately decides. It's like, oh yeah, you guys are getting deputized. The serpents are going to be rolling with the sheriff. I'm like, no, that's so dope. I even love Sweet being like, so does it mean we get guns? It's like, no. But I love that. It's going to be pretty dope. It's like, yo, you're going to be my inside sources. Like, you know, you're going to give me information. You're going to help me in investigations and stuff like that. I'm like, yo. Because obviously, because Jughead didn't never want to use the serpents, you know, for, you know, because they never rolled with drugs and stuff like that. But now it's like taking them in a more positive spin, because I'm sure Weatherby can't have any complaints about it, because it's like, hey, we patrol in town. We're doing good and within the confines of the law. So they're also going to get paid. They're going to get school credits for it too. So it's like a win-win-win. I'm like, dude, I cannot wait to see this unfold. And, you know, FP gets to kind of roll with them. Under his, they kind of get to work right under, you know, FP and everything, and I guess that makes Jughead more of his deputy and everything, which is kind of dope, which is so interesting because I feel like Jughead is kind of like, amongst anyone in the show, he's a more kind of like anti-establishment type of dude, so to think that he kind of be where he is right now is just so interesting, you know. But I guess it's a little different because it's your dad who's also a serpent, so it kind of makes the situation a little different. But that's definitely going to be interesting to see how things go down in that front, especially because Kurtz decided to leave, but a lot of his boys decided to stay with the situation. Now that's going to be interesting because I'm curious to see what Kurtz ends up doing, because the dude's a little wild and crazy, wild card, so I'm curious to see like if he's going to come back, which he's obviously going to. In what shape and form, we do not know, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Quite a lot to digest about this episode. I'm so interested to see where all of this takes us going forward. I decided to save this towards the end just because, you know, I'm kind of sorry to kind of leave the episode off on a downer, but obviously you got to say, you know, rest in peace to Luke Perry. That was kind of like sudden, like, you know, this has been on my mind since, like, you know, Monday night. I saw a notification pop up on my phone. I think it was something from the Washington Post, I think. It was from something that it just popped up saying that. I was like, geez, you know, and I mean, it sucks, you know. Seeing him in this episode just kind of, you know, hits even harder, you know. And, you know, that's all I got to say, you know, to all his, you know, my wishes and prayers, you know, his, you know, friends and family, you know. And I'm not that familiar with his work. Like, this show is like one of the few shows I feel like I've ever really got to know Luke Perry through. So I mean, that's really all I can say. You know, I don't know what else to say. And like I said, I do apologize to kind of end this off on a downer. Especially going to be weird because obviously I'm going to be recording Deadly Class later. So, but I don't know. Either way, I know it's, like I said, it's a downer, but I feel like I had to say something, you know. It'll probably come up later on, you know, but yeah. I'll just leave it at that. And now moving on to this week's episode of Deadly Class. A great episode. Dude, let's break down this episode. It is a big part of this episode of just so many secrets and lies being kept, and not like basically having to choose sides. Basically, like Juan confronts Maria about everything, and then there's a girl from the karaoke who's confronting Saya about everything. And it's like these two, best friends who are kind of already kind of on shaky ground right now are basically being torn further apart, but they're trying to talk to each other because it comes out because Maria tells Marcus that she killed Yukiko, but then he's like, the fact is, you think Chico's dad's gonna be satisfied with that? He's gonna want someone higher up, meaning that Saya's gonna be a target. You didn't think this whole situation through because she thought she killed Yukiko, then it's like all their problems go away, but it's like you doing this just gonna further things along, essentially. And so it's like before they have a chance to really talk to each other, like Juan tries to go after Saya, and then they all get put on lockdown because now another student is dead, and they're like, we're gonna figure this out. Gao and Leonard having their sibling situation. It's so interesting because everything at King's Dominion is basically falling apart at the seams. There's so many secrets and lies. You have Brandy and Juan kind of talking into Maria's ear, being like, oh yeah, she, because for Juan, it's the fact is Chico was my best friend. He was family to me, and you claim he's family to you too, but why don't you want revenge like I do? And Brandy's basically being like, oh, how do you know that you can trust Saya? The fact of the matter is Saya's all about retribution, but retaliation in particular. And Maria's like, no, let me talk to her. The fact of the matter is, Brandy started getting in her head at the same time the girl from the karaoke starts talking to Saya, and it's like, hey, don't worry, you need to handle this. Basically, if she doesn't become valedictorian, it's they all suffer. I guess it's this hierarchy of if you're not in the highest position, that's why Saya tries to be, I guess, kind of perfect like she is, because it's if she doesn't, then it's not just her who's in trouble, it's everybody. And now it's kind of this whole situation of once again she has to retaliate for Yukiko, but the fact is she only wants to go after Juan. It's Juan and no one else the entire time. Shab is there. Also, we ended up finding out about Shab too. It turns out that he's actually informing Gao. He actually brings her Marcus's notebook, and who knows what he's written down in there, what he's drawn, those are his inner thoughts and stuff like that. So, something personal to his, and Shab is going through his stuff like that. And now that Gao situation is interesting because obviously King's Dominion is supposed to be Lin's territory, but it seems like Gao's kind of overtaking it because it turns out Victor and Brandy are starting to work for him, as well as because the girl later on who tried to kill Maria, right? She was like, I don't, listen to you anymore. I guess she's listening to Gao now. So it's some of those people, Shab, have they always been, Gao's inside person, or was it just a recent situation of I guess because she's trying to get people close to each of these people so that she can, get them for information. I hope we don't end up finding out just because of everything. I hope we don't end up finding out that Gabrielle is kind of a plant for Gao in some shape or form. Because obviously, the three main people in all of this situation is Saya, Maria, and Marcus. So it's you don't know who else is kind of spying for Gao. But we also do find out, it's yes, Shab is totally the reason why Chester fuckface knows as much as he does, because he's running his mouth off to his parents and making the situation even worse and stuff like that. I figured as much because I was that's because I figured that had to be the only way. And I'm wondering, did Shab turn to Gao because it's oh, he, Marcus is shutting him out. So, that's what I'm saying. I'm curious, what a series of events happened first. Did Gao come to him first, and that's why he's so invested in Marcus? Of oh, tell me stuff like that, because it just seemed one episode he just seemed out of nowhere to be no, tell me what's really going on and stuff like that. I was why the hell you all up in Marcus's business like that? And now it's oh, I thought it's just we're supposed to be friends and stuff like that. You're keeping stuff from me, but it's no, it's because he was working for Gao at the very least up to that point, So it's it's hard to say. And it's sad that things kind of have come down to this because obviously Saya and Maria are good friends, but now it's just kind of the secrets and stuff kept between them led to this situation. And especially because Gao looks at Maria like a cancer, it's saying normally, I'd kind of commend you for, killing Chico and Yukiko, because obviously Maria didn't say anything, but she figured as much. And the fact is, it's you're a cancer that needs to be cut out. because it's so interesting. Like, it's kind of like everything around you kind of gets infectious. And, using Saya and Marcus as an example. It's actually kind of interesting, too, because all that while, like, Marcus and Willie kind of have their issue, too, because, Willie and Victor are there being like, oh, you're so narcissistic. The fact is you always want to go up against the grain. You want to go against the mainstream because of stuff other people like. You're always shutting stuff down that people like. And it's just kind of like, because I think for Willie, he felt like, yo, you're like saying like, oh, your situation is what's more important than mine. It's like, the fact of the matter is you dragged me into this mess. You lied about what we were doing in Vegas. And now it's like this. Like, the fact is that calling him the narcissist and stuff like that. I think because for Willie, it's like, when is it going to be about me? It's like, this is, kind of being like, this is my life. Why should my life kind of conform to your drama, essentially, is kind of what was kind of interesting. Because I think for the first time in his own life, like, Willie kind of has something for himself of his own in the whole Gabrielle situation. And he doesn't want anything to kind of compromise or take away from that, I think. That's how I look at it. I also love the whole Billy, Lex, and Petra situation. Well, we end up finding out some interesting things. In particular, Lex's story. It's like, oh yeah, his dad doesn't know he's here, even saying that his dad's a hero. Basically, him and his brothers grew up, and his brothers, a bunch of hoodlums. But basically, he was a saint around his dad, but kind of turned into a bad boy around his brothers as well. They used their dad's like security badge to get into the docks to basically steal stuff. Security guard found out. One of the brothers killed a security guard. Lex ended up dropping his dad's badge, and his dad ends up being the number one suspect. But to protect Lex, his dad went to jail. He's like, he's serving my time. That's why, I think, Lex kind of lashes out the way that he does, because he's harboring that, and like I said, everyone at King's Dominion has a super messed up backstory like that. And for him, it's like he hasn't talked to his dad in a long time because he just wanted to get away. That does bring up the question about Lex's brothers. What about them? Are we going to see, like, whatever happened to them and stuff like that? I guess it's not important because I guess the focus is on Lex. But what's interesting is obviously, like, because Petra's like, oh, I obviously know that you're into me. He's like, what? No, I'm not. You must be confusing me with Billy. But it's like, no, you're super into it. And she's like, that's why you talk so much trash about me and to me. And so it's interesting. I love that their entire story is she's like, okay, so the fact is you both like me, and the fact of the matter is you both want to have sex with me, so let's have a threesome. And they're like, wait, what? And then the entire episode, they're trying to figure out the logistics of it, because I don't know, man. Everyone's kind of, Billy's like, I don't want to do it if, like, Lex is going to be there. I don't want to end up seeing his junk or something. And I love Petra basically like, you guys, when you're 40, are going to look back at this moment and be pissed at yourselves for not taking this opportunity when you had the chance. And it's like, what? I figured things were going to end up the way that they did. But I just love it because it's just like it says, the back and forth and the waiting. And then when it ultimately comes down to it, because Petra's like, the fact of the matter is I wouldn't do this with anyone I didn't trust. And the fact is that I'm offering this situation is because I trust both of you. And I think on some level, she likes both of them too. Petra doesn't like the whole emotion situation, but when it finally comes down to it, they're like, all right, they're both finally consensus of like, all right, I'm in. And when the time comes, it's like, things are about to get started. I'm like, whoa, is this really about to happen? And then it's like, oh, and the lockdown's up. It's like, thank goodness, all these emotions flying around. She couldn't handle it. And Lex is like, is that just because of how we feel about you, or is it just because emotions disgust you? And she was like, yes, and leaves. I'm like, and you can tell Billy's literally kicking his ass later on because he's like, oh, something great, something crazy almost happened. And he just, once again, it's like he's already kicking his own ass for, like, it's like if maybe they hadn't, futzed around, maybe they would have been able to, like, make that situation happen. But I was like, yo, are we about to do this? That's crazy. So that was insane. Now that's definitely going to be interesting, kind of that love triangle situation that's going on, because Petra, once again, I think it's not also about how they feel. I do think it's because Petra's trying to keep herself, control, because I think, for her emotions, like I said, I think on some level she likes both of them, and I don't think she really wants that to show. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen going forward. All the flirtation is kind of like, especially because Billy and Lex are like, yeah, what almost happened? And then also on top of that, like, now we both know, obviously, that we both really like Petra, and that's kind of out there too, so that's going to be potentially awkward. I don't know. It's kind of sad, kind of going back to the whole Maria and Saya situation, because, Maria got convinced of like, oh, Saya's going to come after me. Saya was only aiming for Juan, but it turns into a fight, and that led to that situation. And then, Marcus tries to break out to tell the truth. That's all because of Victor. It makes you wonder, is that the reason why Victor did what he gave petty reasons like, oh, Marcus talking shit and stuff like that, calling him vanilla, saying he has no taste. But I wonder, was it simply that, or was it connected to this gal situation? I mean, it seems like for Brandy and Victor, it was later on they decided to kind of choose Gal's side and stuff like that, because for them, it's like, it's the winning horse in this situation. But Lynn ends up catching Marcus before he's able to get into them and starts beating on him and everything. And he's like, yeah, that's what it is. Beat the, essentially whatever you're dealing with, beat it out of me. Is that what you kind of teach us all at school? He's like, you don't follow the lessons, and shows him a home video of his family. And it's like, I know you're lying to me, so stop lying. And then he said the one thing that was going to make Marcus break, because it's the one thing that drives Marcus. And it was like, I will take this all away from you. I'll take myself as well as this school, everything that you call a home here. And that's the one thing that scares Marcus, because for the first time in a long time, he's not alone. And, he's in a place that he, once again, surrounded by, killers and liars, he found a home. And for him, it's like, he doesn't want to lose that. And he ends up telling Lynn the truth. And when it came down to it, Lynn actually had his back, because he goes to Chico's dad and was like, yeah, Chico and Yukiko, they had this whole thing. Like, Chico was trying to collect money. That's why Yukiko killed him. And the fact of the matter is, but now Yukiko's dead. Lynn, keeps up the lie, but like, oh, I know what it's like to lose a child. The fact of the matter is, your need for revenge, the fact of the matter is, it won't be satiated no matter how many people you kill, because the fact is that, just have peace knowing that your son's killer is dead. And it's like, yo, because I think for Lynn can sympathize with Marcus and them, because it's like, it comes down to, because he realizes at the end of the day, this is all about protecting people. Maria killed Chico to protect Marcus. Marcus concocted all these lies and stuff to protect Maria, who's, so it's like, the fact of the matter is, but the fact is that Lynn took his side, I think, speaks volumes. Because the fact is, Lynn isn't who, because he is a lot softer than Gal. Like, Gal wouldn't, listen to that type of situation. She'd probably punish Maria like, oh, now that the truth is out, she might punish them all for lying, but she definitely would probably end up killing Maria. And that's what I'm thinking at the very least. Like I said, that's also definitely going to be interesting, considering the fact that things have kind of come down to the way they are. Like I said, it seems like Gal's kind of got her group and her, mission and stuff like that. Like, it seems like she's going to have Victor and Brandy do some stuff, kind of proving that, like, oh, Victor is kind of loyal to her and stuff like that. Because, like I said, she's the boss of the boss, and she is in Brandy's words, kind of the horse to bet on in this race, so it's definitely going to get very interesting. Because even like early in the episode, Gal was like, oh, if the guild comes, I'm gonna have to take your daughter, to protect her, of course, but it's not going to come down to that. But it's like, obviously Lynn is pissed. Like, that's why he wanted to solve this situation quickly, resolve it so that things don't get worse. But it's like, it's already too late. The dominoes have started falling. And when the time comes, it seems, like I said, it seems like Maria and Saya, the relationship isn't necessarily going to get repaired, because Marcus is like, hey, the whole Yukiko situation, she did it for us. Because I guess she figured because I didn't really realize that she had figured that out. I guess the whole, like, Yukiko's the one who sent those people after, because he's like, he had betrayed you. So I didn't realize that she had figured that out, like, because she did listen when Juan had told her that, but she never told Saya. And Saya kind of goes, you didn't tell me because you didn't trust me. And it's like, but the fact is, Saya showed up to try and help her and everything, saved her from the girl from the karaoke, because it turns out the reason why she was so invested in this, I guess, like, because Gal gave her the nod. So it's gotten like, I was like, oh, so is she secretly working for Gal? Which that kind of, I brought up earlier, which I kind of feel like that is the case, because Gal was going to allow her to get her revenge, because Yukiko was her best friend. Because it's like, do you ever have an old friend who knows you inside and out? Essentially, that was Yukiko for her. That's why she didn't believe this whole Chico business. So that's another layer to this. And now Saya's going against her, and now I'm sure that's going to end up in a situation. Well, that's not against the karaoke, because that's more so against, you picked the wrong side in a situation, which inadvertently that means she kind of chose Lynn's side, and I guess that girl chose, Gal's side. Because at first I was like, oh, is that kind of leading to Saya kind of having an outs with the karaoke, even though that's kind of like a thing anyway, just because of her brother and everything. Nevertheless, But Saya sees the point of being like, no, she didn't do this for us. She did it for herself because it helped her situation. It was kind of like, it wasn't like this selfless reason she did it. She did it for a selfish reason of trying to help herself. But for Saya, it's like, no, that's okay. It's a good thing to know that ahead of time, because when it gets revealed later on, it won't be that much of a gut punch. It's kind of like, because now I know that's why you do what you do. So, which is kind of sad. But when it comes down to it, you can even have Willie and Saya, because Saya's telling Willie to kind of be more honest, because he's never honest with anyone, but he wants to do that with Gabrielle. And then that's when Marcus drops the bomb. He's like, the fact of the matter is, we were so caught up in everything because of all the secrets and lies between us. And the fact of the matter is, he's like, truth be told is, you guys are my family, the closest thing I've had to a family since my parents died. And it's like, I don't want to lose you guys. And it's like, oh, he's opening up and everything. And then he drops the bomb on them. The one that Saya knows, basically being like, the 12 kids at the home, I wasn't the one that killed them. And it's like, yo. And he ends up telling them all about Chester having Chico's body. And it's like, the deadline's coming up. So it's kind of interesting. Like, things are a little fragmented, but I think Marcus is trying to bring them all together. It's interesting too, because now Gal knows, because of Victor and Brandy, that like, hey, Marcus is at the center of it. She's already got her eye on Marcus anyway, just because of Shab. So it's like, dude, things are definitely going to get interesting. But I think Lynn is going to, like, we saw him this episode protecting everyone, protecting his students. So I think he's going to have Marcus's back. But like, I think King's Dominion is about to get heavily divided. Already starting to, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the lines are drawn between everyone, what side everyone chooses. Are you with Lynn? Or are you with Gal? Because it seems like it's about to be a takeover. And when that takeover hits, I think when it comes down to it, Lynn is going to need his students' help. He's probably going to need Marcus in the gang, because when it comes down to protecting his daughter too from all of this, I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.